WWDC 2026 in many ways kind of felt like 2024 2 Electric Boogaloo. A lot of the features Apple promised were either overdue features promised to us 2 years ago, like personal context, or enhanced and updated versions like the new image playground. And on top of that, there's a lot of confusion surrounding what technologies Apple announced, which devices will support each one, and when they'll become available. So today, let's break it all down. I'm gonna take you through the new macOS Golden Gate beta, show you how the new features work and integrate in macOS, and try to clarify some things that I felt were a bit confusing in the WWDC keynote. So without any further ado, let's dive in. We'll start with the refreshed liquid glass design that Apple is implementing this time around. Right off the bat, you'll notice that the separated sidebar tray is gone and we're back to a more traditional partition between windows. Similarly, the top bar in many applications is now more separated with a defined line showing where the top bar is. And some apps actually have a hybrid of this, like Maps, which appears full screen until your mouse moves over the top area of the window or if you click off of the application. Also new is a slider to allow you to change the strength of the glass effect. And it basically has two settings, one where you adjust the opacity and one where you can increase background contrast. Fully maxed out, there are almost no refractions, with the buttons getting a dark frosted backing. And even on the most clear setting, I have to say I think the glass effect has been neutered a bit too much in my opinion. I noticed in a lot of situations the effect more looks like a Gaussian blur than a refraction, and in my opinion that's a bit of a step backwards. But of course, the big story for today's system-wide updates are enhancements to Apple Intelligence and finally, the new version of Siri. So let's unpack how all of that works within macOS right after a word from today's video sponsor. The tech space is always filled with overhyped marketing campaigns that fail to actually deliver value. And that's where today's video sponsor, Anker, aims to change things. For example, they claim that their charging cables are able to withstand over 30,000 bends, and that's not just marketing talk. They have a dedicated testing rig to bend their cables back and forth until they literally snap. And it's that sort of attention to detail and focus on engineering that makes things like their new Anker Prime 160-watt charger so impressive. Anker is a pioneer of gallium nitride charging technology, and it shows. Look how tiny this thing is. 160 watts in this tiny brick. And its high quality build means it can go with you anywhere. Its 3-port design is perfect for travel, easily keeping a laptop, tablet, and smartphone charged with plenty of power to split between them. And thanks to Active Shield 4.0 temperature monitoring, you can always count on fast, safe, reliable charging. It can even orient the display based on which direction the charger is facing. That's the type of attention to detail Anker has. I've worked with Anker many times in the past, and I'm always impressed with how high quality and well designed their products are. Frankly, all of this makes me more excited to see what new stuff they've got cooking up for the next couple of years. And if you want to learn more about their new lineup of products, including the Anker Prime 160-watt charger, check out the link in the description down below. A big thanks to Anker for sponsoring, and now let's get back to the video. So I want to start by parsing some of the confusing language from today's keynote. It's very unclear what features run on which devices. First off, the most confusing thing that Apple talked about was this more advanced model of Apple Silicon that can run on, as they put it,
our most capable iPhone, iPad, and Mac systems.
So there are two distinct versions of what Apple is calling AFM, the Apple Foundational Models that underpin all of the different iterations and features of Apple Intelligence. These versions are AFM Core and AFM Core Advanced. AFM Core is supported on iPhone 15 Pro as well as iPhone 16 or later models, iPads with M1 or later as well as the A17 Pro iPad mini, Mac models with M1 or later, and Apple Watch Series 10 and Ultra 2 and up. Then you've got AFM Core Advanced, which runs on iPhone 17 Pro, M3 or higher Macs, and M4 or higher iPads. This more advanced tier gives you access to larger models and features like expressive voices and enhanced dictation. Now, both of these are local models that run on your device, but Core Advanced has about 20 billion parameters, significantly more than the basic model that runs on most hardware. But the clever thing about this system is that it only loads the parameters that you need for each specific prompt. So every time you query the new version of Siri, it determines which subset of parameters are needed, and it only loads those into the system memory. That means that you don't need to load all 20 billion parameters every single time, which allows it to work in a lot more integrated settings. But there are some situations where AFM cannot just run on your system. So there is a server side, which in turn has two versions called AFM Cloud and Cloud Pro. AFM Cloud, you may remember, is running on Apple Silicon private cloud compute servers. And then there's Cloud Pro, which is where Apple has outsourced the most for their generative images. Things like Reframe and Extend, enhanced image playground features, etc. run on these NVIDIA GPU-powered servers in the Google Cloud, and these are also the features that Craig Federighi mentioned would have usage limits depending on your iCloud plan.
Some features, including image generation, have daily usage limits because they rely on powerful server models. Increased access is available with most iCloud Plus subscription plans.
Now, there's a lot here that frankly I don't really understand, but I wanted to kind of establish a baseline for how these features operate, because when you're building AI tools into very deep system level access, it's probably important that you understand whether they're running on device, whether they're going to Apple's private cloud compute, or whether they're going to an NVIDIA server farm with a Google Cloud. And I hope now you kind of have an understanding of how that works. So let's dive in and explore some of the features that we have access to now. Now, the biggest feature that we've been waiting nearly 2 years for is personal context, and it's finally here to index your entire device and pull relevant personal details. So does it work? Well, obviously it's very early stages and I'm not gonna judge too much, but I can definitively say right now, kinda. First up, in Messages, you'll find helpful little buttons prompting calendar shortcuts. Love that. Also, when you right-click on a document, you can use Ask Siri to get quick info from inside a PDF or a Word document. Here, it was able to pull exactly the information that I wanted out of this Carfax report. However, I found that when trying to get that kind of specific details from a general Siri search, it's a lot more hit or miss. What if I didn't remember where that Carfax report was on my computer? Well, I asked Siri the same exact question, but this time it gave me a calendar result from back in 2023. The problem was this was for a totally different car. Clearly, Siri is struggling with how much data it can scrape, so I dug a little bit deeper. I asked it to find the mileage for my 2001 Audi TT, and this time it located the correct document, but said it couldn't find the mileage listed. Now that's weird because I just asked Siri on this same document directly and it showed me no problem. So I pressed again. This time Siri said that the summary cut off right before mileage details. Aha, now we're getting somewhere. It seems like through Spotlight search, Siri only has limited access to the documents that it indexes. So when I asked to hear the summary, it showed exactly where the text cuts off at last own. And sure enough, you could see that text right at the top of the PDF, meaning Siri was only able to search with that small bit of indexed text at the top of the page. I also found its current iteration unable to complete in-depth searches in photos. A query like photos from my trip to Iceland worked well enough, but when I tried to get Siri to pull up this very clear photo of a red car, it gave me, well, the complete opposite of that. This new Siri also adds functionality through visual intelligence. I found that you need to fiddle a little bit to get this set up, but if you do Shift-Command-5, you can highlight a section of screen and then you can query Siri about its contents. For example, I asked how many calories are in this plate of pasta and it gave an impressive breakdown showing the calories per serving size of each ingredient. The thing is though, I have no way of fact-checking that information. It could just be making it up. So I ran another experiment where I could fact-check the information. In this instance, I asked what car was pictured, and it did return some results. However, they were completely wrong. The car is actually a 1991 Mercedes 500 SL, not a 300 CE or 500 SEC. Now, granted, these are very similar looking cars, so I wouldn't exactly expect it to get that right off the bat, but it really underscores an issue that I have with pretty much every implementation of AI that I've used: a lack of detail and a lack of accuracy. If the AI can only find me things that I could find myself very easily, there's not really that much benefit in using it. And if the information that it provides is factually inaccurate, that means I can't trust anything that it tells me. I mean, heck, I even tried a shoe-in classic AI trick, asking it to generate a video outline in Pages. Siri then gave me an outline, but not in the document as requested, rather in the Siri window. It did an okay job of pulling some basic information and blocking it into groups, but if the goal here was to make the AI more seamless, it really didn't do that. I'll chalk up some of the bugginess to this being literally the day one developer beta, right? No judgment there, but the text generation itself is no more useful than what you would find on any other AI chatbot, and to be honest, I never find those useful. So what about their advanced image generation tech? Well, I wanted to try the new Reframe feature, which works on macOS pretty much the same as it does on iOS. You just click Edit on a photo, and at the top bar you select Tools, and from here you have access to a range of sliders, or you can click and drag on the center of the image. Now, one thing I notice here is that as you move the image around, it does start to fall apart very quickly. There's weird artifacting going on. But once you send it off to the server to get processed and generate a new version, which does take a little while, I was impressed with the results. Frankly, it's a lot better than I was expecting and a huge leap above Apple's previous image playground technology. So my main impression from using macOS Golden Gate and Apple's new AI features are one, relief. I mean, the fact that we've been waiting 2 years and now these features are here is pretty cool. And I will say, I think Apple's approach of deep integration makes a lot of sense. Being able to index your photos, emails, messages, and documents makes it inherently more naturalistic and useful, in my opinion, for finding things that you might want to find. At the same time, though, I think the AI itself doesn't seem to be particularly more intelligent or powerful than other agents like ChatGPT or Claude. So in that sense, I find this to be a bit of a mixed bag. I'd love to see where Apple goes next and how they develop these systems, but for now, I have a feeling this is gonna be something that I use from time to time. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Is this a big step in the right direction? Are you happy about finally getting some of these Apple Intelligence features, or were you hoping for something a little bit different? Let me know in the comments below. And of course, thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.